What's up, boys and girls? I am here joined by a legend of the Poker Spirit community, the one, the only Oskar. Oskar is in many ways the heart and soul of our team at Poker Spirit. And I think he's a big part of the spirit behind Poker Spirit, the namesake itself. So someone I feel good to both invest my money with, but also to hang out and just talk about life with. I wanted to introduce him to you guys. I think we're going to have a great conversation. And yeah, Oskar, what would you like to tell the fine people about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Oskar. I come from Sweden, and I started playing poker back in 2004. Started out playing free rolls on Ladbrokes back in the days, and worked my way up, I guess, fairly quickly. I had a big tournament score pretty early in my career. Managed to work my way through a couple of sponsors along the way as well, and have mixed both live and online throughout my career, I guess, focusing more on one or the other at different times, depending on what has worked best with life and family. And yeah, eventually ended up with you guys.
Very nice. It's funny. I hadn't thought about my origins in poker in such a long time. You said I started out playing free rolls on Ladbrokes, and I was like, I remember I used to deposit on party poker, and I was certain that you could make free money if you just you could clear the deposit bonus by folding. So it was like you deposit $1,200 and they're like, we're going to give you $1,200. You just have to play like this many hands. So I had this strategy, like, I'm just going to play aces, and I'll fold everything else. But of course I can't fold kings. I was a fish. I was a donk. I didn't know how to win at poker, right? And I never played cash games. I just played sit and goes if I played anything. But to clear the bonus, you had to play cash games. So it was like, first my strategy was just play aces. Then I'm like, okay, I'll play aces and ace king. And I'll play queens, and I'll play kings, and I'll play jacks. And next thing you know, you're like flat and 8-9 suited on the button, and you're just mixing it up, And my problem, I think, if I honestly assess myself at that time, was, I tried to win every hand. I thought, if you put even a small blind in the pot, then you must win that pot, because otherwise you made a mistake to play the hand. So yeah, shit, I always went bust out before I cleared my deposit bonus, every single time.
Yeah, poker was very different back in the days. I actually remember playing a free roll. Was sometime the summer of 2004. Was actually my first summer off, probably almost in my life, because I've been working every summer, but I decided to take that summer off before going to Philadelphia to do my thesis project for my master's. And I ended up playing this free roll, and the environment was so different. Everybody almost busting out from the tournament was actually railing the tournament to see who won. And this was a free roll where the $1,000 free roll, I think I won $500 for winning it. And people were railing and cheering me on, and saying, oh, you busted me, I don't know, at 150th or whatever, but I hope you win it and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, it was long. It was very different from nowadays, when people hope you get cancer and die instead. So
yeah, there's always some negative people in the world everywhere, right? But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I remember when I was doing the party poker deposit bonuses, that was before I knew learning how to win at poker was possible. I didn't know there was training. I didn't know there was education. I thought if you just play poker, somehow smart people eventually win, and probably I was neither smart nor right. But later in life, I think around 2008, I discovered training sites and stuff, because I've become recently unemployed, right? I was working for a marketing company, and then the financial collapse happened and my job evaporated overnight. So all of a sudden, gambling for a living seemed okay, because I didn't have any faith in the regular system. I was doing good at my job, in line for promotion. I was fresh out of college. And then it was just hey, guess what? You're unemployed, because all this stuff happened you have nothing to do with. So I was all right, we're going to reevaluate some things. And I was convinced I was going to make a living on the internet, whether it's a blogger or a writer or the website, I don't know, affiliate deal, something, and I wasn't going to go back to another brick and mortar, so to speak. And yeah, I started playing these $5 sit and goes on PokerStars, like reg speeds. I mean, imagine the hourly at $5 reg speeds. I was one tabling, full focus.
Yeah,
And
it can't be too good.
yeah, I noticed this guy was going all in like every hand, like we were four-handed, right? And it was 9-person sit and go. And like he was just going all in every hand. So eventually went all in on the small blind. And I called him with ace-3 or something, because I was like, this guy is any two cards. He had like 7-3 offsuit, and we spike an ace on the flop. We're all good anyway. And like we double up, he's upset. He starts typing in the chat. He's like, that was like, he said ICM question mark. It's 2008. I'm playing a $5 reg speed. I'm one tabling in my
Who
apartment.
knew what ICM was in
I was
2008?
like, what's
the first?
ICM? So I wrote ICM question mark, and he said it's minus EV. So I wrote like EV question mark. And then he said, never mind donkey. And I was like, donkey question mark, I didn't get any of it. So then I did go ahead.
He thought you were trolling him, I'm sure.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I guess he thought we're all regs. I don't even think I knew what a reg was. But I did a Google search for ICM, EV, donkey, and poker. Like you put the quotes and then you put the ampersand, like this word and this word. And I came across this training site. It was like Poker X Factor. It's like, it looks like it was built, like if we have Web 3 now, this was built in Web -3. Like it was like basically like the back end you would have for your like high school library, it was like MS-DOS almost. But it had these videos that taught you how to make money in sit and goes. And it had like this article that promised you can make $10 an hour, 4 tabling, turbo $11 sit and goes on full tilt poker with rake back. And since I was unemployed, $10 an hour working from home in 2008 seemed pretty good, So yeah. I basically like bought a Windows laptop on a credit card, signed up for Poker X Factor, started watching training videos every night before bed. And, a year later, I was living in Vegas playing poker for a living, making more than my old job. So
yeah, I did it a little bit. I did it a little bit differently, I guess. Like I said, I was playing a little bit of free rolls during the summer. I do think I did deposit like $50 a few times, just to try out the cash games as well. But I didn't end up playing that much. But then I went to Philadelphia to get my master's in pharmacy. But I ended up coming home with 2 masters, I guess, one in pharmacy and one in poker. Because while I was there, I bought every poker book I could get my hands on, and I read them all. It was the Super System, I don't know, like Ace on the River. I don't even remember, like the Harrington on poker. I read them all, like whatever I found, I read. And not all of them were really good, but I did get the fundamentals of ABC style poker down, and that was all you needed back then to just print. So when I came home and started looking for jobs, I was kind of unlucky, I guess, because the company AstraZeneca, which was the biggest company, most pharmaceutical company in my city, they just fired like 700 people or something. So you have 700 people with more experience and longer careers on the market looking for jobs. My chances of getting a job are not that great at the moment. So what I do, like when I come home to my computer, the first thing, like when I come from the airport, I just turn on my computer, log into a poker site, deposit, and I start playing. And I remember the first weekend I come home from Philadelphia to Sweden, I make $1,600 in 2 days. And for me, that was a lot of money back then. And also in comparison to what I would have made starting to work, I would probably have made like, I don't know, like 3K a month or something like that. So I immediately, thought that, wow, I mean, it's going to be hard for me to start looking at jobs to make less than what I think I can now make every weekend playing poker. So I kind of immediately just, I looked for a job every now and then, but I focused pretty much on poker, and uh, I went pretty much straight up. Like there weren't many downswings in the beginning. People were a lot worse back then, I guess, in general, and the rec to reg factor were a lot different as well. There were, I mean, one or two pros or regs at every table maximum, and the rest were just, happy recreationals. So it was very easy to make money back then, just playing ABC poker. But then a few years later, that didn't work anymore. So
Was that around, like you said that AstraZeneca laid off like 700 highly qualified people? Was that around 2008, like around the same time for me as the financial collapse?
it was 2005
Okay.
in February that I came home, and it was like, I don't know if it was a month or two before, or if it was like that exact month. I can't remember exactly, but it was very close to that time at least. So very early 2005.
So like my first year as a real like professional was like 2009. And I remember when I got very good at sit and goes, like I had a similar experience to you. I went, sort of straight up, like no big downswings. I went from $5 sit and goes to, $500 sit and goes in 6 months. And I was playing 1Ks and 2Ks by the end of the year, which, is kind of ridiculous, and I'm sure I wasn't properly rolled, but I was winning. And, we heard the heyday stories of like 2005 when like Phil Galfond was battling in 5K sit and goes, you know what I mean, with Andrew Roble and like these kind of guys. Like I never played in 2005, but I heard, as a 2009 reg, they were like poker's dead. It was good in 2005, because they're always saying poker's dead and it was good some years ago.
There is some
So,
truth to that, I guess. I mean, uh, maybe the format that was once the best format was dead, but in poker you have to be adaptable. You have to change with the surroundings. When the recreationals no longer play the same game, you have to play whatever they're playing, right? So you have to be willing to change. And if you're stuck playing like the same format as you did in 2005, then yeah, you're not going to make the same money. But if you're willing to try out new formats and new games, and yeah, are willing to gamble it up, you're still going to be able to make the same money as you could back then, I guess.
in a way, I'm kind of glad that the new formats have gone in the direction of gambling it up, like obviously PLO, then 5 card PLO, because there was a trend for a while that was sort of the opposite. I mean, when I played sit and goes, the strategy was to be a nit and just make it to
Yeah.
push fold, that's what they taught you. And then like they came out with double or nothing sit and goes. It was like a 10-handed sit and go where 5 people got 2 buy-ins.
Right.
And I mean, like I used to work at Subway when I was in college. If you're a professional poker player and you're playing double or nothing sit and goes, this is the equivalent of working at Subway as a poker player. This is the
Yeah.
fast food of being a professional poker player. I mean, it's got to be the least fun variant of poker you could imagine, right? Like you just fold your way to like 6-handed and then try not to bust, it's just like, so
Yeah.
I'm glad that with, the new variants was involved more gambling. I think it also brings more fun into the game, like more fun players. Like you're not going to have Hustler live stream with the guys playing a double or nothing sit and go unless it's for
Oh,
like
for sure
10
not.
$10 million. Then it'd be sick.
Yeah. I have a quite funny story, I think, about how my poker career as a professional got started. So like I said, I came home from Philadelphia and I started playing right away. And like if a month or two into my professional poker career, or whatever you want to call it, since I was unemployed, a friend of mine who actually introduced me to the game said that he heard about this thing called rakeback and he could get us a deal on a different site. So yeah, I I was a little bit slow to jump on that train, I guess, but eventually I moved sites and got the rakeback, and like a week or so into that new site, which was a skin on the microgaming network back then. somebody wrote to me in the chat on the table, like, I'm gonna try to catch you on the leaderboard. So I'm like, what leaderboard? I didn't know what he was talking about. And so I started asking him in the chat, like, what leaderboard? What are you talking about? And he was like, yeah, the Vegas one. And I'm like, what Vegas leaderboard? You know, the main event. And I'm like, no, I don't know. What are you talking about? So he eventually, he just, you know, because you could actually copy and paste the URL of the website back then in the chat, which you can't do anymore. But so I just copied that and I read, and I saw that I was, you know, on top of the leaderboard for playing the most hands or whatever. And whoever played the most hands in 2 weeks actually got a all expenses paid with hotel, flights, and pocket money, and a buy-in to the main event in Vegas. So I was like, whoa, I got to win this now when I'm number one, right? So I was actually just late for work. I had an extra job at my squash club where I played squash, just in the reception. So I was just leaving for that, and I was like, shit, I don't want to go and work now, but you know, I do deliver on what I promised, and I didn't
Right.
want to call in sick. That's not how I do things. So I went to work. I worked for like 6, 7, 8 hours or whatever it was. And then I came home again in like 11 in the evening, I think, because we usually get off at 10:30. And when I came home, I turned on my computer and I played for 36 hours straight because I really wanted to make sure that I got
Jesus
ahead in this
Christ.
race. Yeah. So that was, I played a little bit in the morning. I went to work and then I played for 36 hours. And I remember my back then girlfriend, nowadays wife, she actually stopped by my apartment when I was like, I don't know, 34 hours or something into this grind. And she was very used to me being a little bit tidy, you know, everything was clean and stuff like that. And she came by my apartment and there was dishes all over my little kitchen, and you know, I was in my robe or something, no clothes, you know, probably a little bit smelly in there as well. And she was like, what the hell's going on? Does he have a gambling addiction or what's up? So I kind of had to explain that to her. And I was actually really nervous because when there was like, I don't know, 1.5 days or whatever left of this promotion, I was actually going to Paris on a trip with my wife, or with my girlfriend back then, to propose to her. So
Oh wow.
so I really wanted to make sure that I got enough hands in to win this Vegas promotion before I left for Paris. And but yeah, it all worked out, I guess. I won the promotion, and I won her hand as well. So a good week, I guess.
And
Uh,
how did the trip to Vegas go?
yeah, that was the end of the story, I guess. I managed to come in 14th in the main event. And yeah, I mean, I got to meet all my back then poker heroes. You know, I got to play with Phil Ivey, double him up, or he doubled me up twice. And yeah, I mean, it was crazy experience. That was the last year
What
they moved to Binions for the like final 3 tables or whatever. So I got to go to Binions and play as well.
what year
So
was
that was
this?
2005.
Oh man. So 2005 WSOP main event, final 2 tablist, Oskar Silo on the
Yeah,
podcast with me. Were you
for
on the
sure.
coverage? Like, do you have like archives? I guess we have VHS tape of like, you know, Mike Sexton and whatever the other guy, Norman Chad being like, oh, he's
It was
got him. Oh, and Ivy doubles up, you know.
no, I wasn't on the feature table that much, unfortunately. There is a clip of me busting. So they show my last hand, and I kind of take a bow when everybody applauds or whatever. And um, so yeah, there's a little bit of that on the ESPN, but not that much. But there was actually a Swedish newspaper or TV show, whatever, that was there and filmed the documentary the same year. And they interviewed me quite a bit, and along with a lot of other Swedish poker players. So I got a little bit of TV time there, and that documentary has become kind of like iconic in Sweden. It's very, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Do you think you
So
paved
yeah,
the
it's
way
fun
for
to be
some of
part of that, I
these?
guess.
You think you paved
Sorry?
the way for some of these 22-year-old Swedish kids who are like battling at high stakes PLO? Maybe you created your own
Nah,
bonus.
nah, I don't want to take credit for that, but yeah, I think some players got a good laugh at least from looking at the documentary and seeing me in it. So
And how did that affect your ego? Because to be honest, and I'm being honest here, if that had happened to me, I think in the first year of my career, like I'm living in my apartment, unemployed, out of college, I start playing online poker to not have to get a job. Then a year later, I'm making, more money than I've ever made in my life. I go to Vegas. I play the main event, which I've watched only on TV. I get 14th for, I guess it was like a six-figure score, like a couple hundred K,
400K, yeah.
400K. Yeah. I mean, I would have assumed that next year I'm going to make 1.6 million and win the main event, or, you know what I mean? I just would have assumed it was like, look how much I accomplished in 1 year. Next year, I'm going
Yeah.
to make like, 10 years from now, I'm going to be a billionaire, like I would have, my mind would have gone nuts. My ego, I would have not handled it well. How did you handle it?
So first of all, I only had 4K in my bankroll when I went to Vegas. So after spending some on the Paris trip and the ring for my wife, I guess. So it was quite the boost to my bankroll, for sure.
4K to
Um,
400K. That's wild.
yeah. I mean, I didn't get to keep the 400K. I had a deal with a friend, and I also like a swap, and I also had to pay taxes. But either way, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. In a way, it's probably like the worst thing that could have happened to my poker career in a way, because like you said, my ego got inflated. I thought that I was way better than I was. I started playing some other, tournaments thinking that this is going to happen regularly. It's not something that I'm going to have to work for that much. It's just going to happen every now and then I enter a tournament. So, and I mean, I think I played the tournament fairly well. I don't like I actually wrote down most of the hands that I played, and I still had that notebook, and I looked back at it, and I don't have that many like regrets. I don't think that I had that many spots that I would have played that much differently today. So I think I played solid poker, but I don't realize how much, luck there was still involved for me to dodge the setups or whatever. Like there's luck is not only winning, when you're 70-30 favorite or whatever, it's also not being on the wrong end of a cooler or against a bigger stack or something like that. So, and I didn't, take all those things into consideration back then for sure. And I just thought that, I deserved this. I was unlucky not to go further. So yeah, it wasn't that great, I guess. And also like getting this boost to my bankroll, I no longer thought it was fun to play the same tables that I played before I left for Vegas, which was mainly like the 50-cent $1 tables. It just didn't, feel.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, you're fighting for 100
obviously,
bucks
right?
on 5 tables when you just won 400. So it's like, so I started playing 5-10 instead. At least I didn't go to 50-100, which some people do. But I mean, I did go up to 5-10, and I have to admit that I was probably a spot there for a long time before I started, winning with, with rake back and, variance or whatever. I probably managed to break even for a long time. So it's not like I lost, but I wasn't winning. I would probably have made more money continuing to play my lower stakes for a bit longer. But having the big bankroll boost from Vegas, it was fine to break even for a year or two. I'm not even sure how long of a stretch it was, but I just know that I didn't make a lot of money. And like you said, I probably expected to have another 400K score the next year or the year after. And when that didn't happen, yeah, I ended up breaking even for 2 years instead, I guess. At least I had some money to live from, but yeah, it would have been maybe better if I would have had to struggle a bit more during that time, not have that big score, um, maybe, you know, if I have a 25K score or whatever instead, I could have paid for, you know, my wedding, my honeymoon, and then I'm back to square one, right? And if I want a career in poker, I have to fight for it. I have to study. I have to work my way up and do it the right way. And I think that would have been a better path, and I think it is the better path for anybody who wants to make it in poker. So in that way, I
Yeah.
think it's a curse and not a blessing.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I think there's an old expression like from The Alchemist, actually my favorite book. It said every blessing ignored becomes a curse. And you know, in a way, getting 400K is a blessing, but in you know, in a sense, we kind of take that blessing for granted when we just, you know, 10x our stakes because like, hey, I've got more money now and it doesn't fuel my dopamine anymore, you know? And now it's kind of in a sense, a curse because it's caused you to fall off of what would have been good studious behavior. But let's be realistic. I think very few people walking the planet would have continued to play 50 cent dollar, but it would have been good to, I mean, I would be impressed by the person who would though, you know, like they're just like, well,
Yeah,
it's not like this tournament made me a better poker player at PLO, you know, or whatever I'm playing, you know, it's not like it made me a better six max cash player. So why would I move up? There are people that have that mindset and I think it's impressive. But I think it's very rare.
yeah,
I often talk to poker players and it's like, you know, I've coached, you know, I don't know, 400, 500 poker players over my career. And a lot of them would like, it's so hard sometimes to explain to somebody why they're doing something that's kind of stupid. Because, you know, especially as a coach, you got to like lead the horse to water. You got to make them realize for itself. You can't just tell someone like, hey, that's dumb, unless you have a high level of like respect and they, you know, they've kind of told you to operate like that with them. So, I mean, very often you see like somebody who's like not breaking through and then they're like playing tournaments on the side when they're like a cash game player. And you're just like, why are you doing that? And they're like, I don't know, like I thought this could maybe help me. And you're just like, there's no way that that will help you. You know, like you're trying to get to 510, you play 1-2. If you play Sundays and you play tournaments, that's not going to help you because either it's you're going to lose, which is not going to help you. You're going to break even, which is not going to help you, or you're going to win, which is not going to help you. Because the path to 510, if you're a cash game player, is to beat 1-2, and then it's to beat 2-4, and then it's to beat 3-6, you know? And like,
yeah,
why you want to shortcut the work? Don't cheat the work. You know, it's like Ryan Holiday, discipline is destiny. Don't cheat the work. And when you try to cheat the work, you end up taking longer and you end up being full of imposter syndrome or just actually not good enough when you reach the goal because you tried to leapfrog it, you know? So don't cheat the work and don't be afraid of the work, I think is a good lesson. But you know, I think in a fun life experience sense, you know, I think the winning 400K, breaking even for a couple of years, and then like, you know, finding your footing at 510, I would take that, I think, over the like straight lace, one foot in front of the other, just because it sounds pretty fun. You know, it sounds pretty unique and I
yeah.
wouldn't regret it, but I wouldn't coach somebody to expect that's the path they're going to take. You know, I mean, if you want to guarantee success, then do the process that like can't fail, you know?
Yeah, it's not a regret. It's more of a reflection of how it affected me and my career, I guess. It's not an experience I would want to trade for anything. I loved it. It was amazing, and it's one of the best memories of my life, to be honest. Like I had yeah, I mean, that whole trip was, you know, I was, yeah, just walking on clouds. It was so much fun, and also to be able to share it with my wife and yeah, some friends as well was yeah, a lot of fun. And I mean, I had a lot of friends back home that were like trying to search like for all the updates that were available back then, like how I was doing, and they were creating groups and, you know, contacting each other and spreading information. So that was kind of cool when I came home too, to hear about how they've you know, been up all night, because it's the 9-hour time difference, right?
Oh.
To try to follow the action. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. Like, I guess in 2009, I played my first main event, and I think I thought, like, probably if I made the final table or something, or like all my friends from home would have like come out, you know, they would have flown out to watch the final table, whereas like now it's 2023, I'll play the main event. I'm pretty sure if I final tabled it, I'm gonna get a bunch of Facebook messages and people I haven't talked to in 15 years, you know? You know,
That's very true.
hey man, I saw you on TV. How's that poker thing going? Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how some people show up when they see you have a big score or something.
Yeah. I remember I sold action to some of my friends in 2009 and like I've been crushing online. So I think they like just kind of assumed that will continue. And I think I bricked like a 50K schedule. Like I not bricked, but like I lost like 40K or 50K in my first schedule. And I think someone like CTS or some big shot like Cole South had bought most of my action and like he understood variance and didn't care at all. But like one of my friends had bought like, I don't know, $2,000 and returned like 400. And he was just like, what is this? You know, he's like, you lost $1,600. And I was like, actually, I lost a lot more than that. And he was like, man, you suck. You know what I mean? I was like, oh God. Variance.
Yeah.
But good times. So I guess we were both mental game fish early in our career. That's fair to say, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. For sure, I had a lot of mental game leaks. I'm not even sure when I really started taking the mental game seriously, but it was probably too late. No, it's never
Yeah.
too late, but it was later than I would have wanted. I think it was probably around the time with COVID hit, to be honest. I mean, I had bought some books and I had read like whatever, like the Jared Tendler books at some point earlier, but that was around the time when I don't know, my career had kind of like plateaued. I felt that I wanted a bit more. I was also at, you know, kind of like a crossroads in my life in general, I think. Having some a little crisis, I guess, in my marriage as well and with family. So I was trying to figure out what I wanted and what I needed from life. And my kids were also a little bit older, so they were not as demanding as they were before. And I had a little bit more time to focus on my career, I guess. Because let's just face it, when the kids are small, like when you have babies, it's so hard to be a poker player and make life work and have balance and whatever structure, like all the things that you need, I guess. So anyway, during that time, I just realized that I wanted more and I wanted to do more in poker and achieve more. And I guess Instagram is pretty good sometimes at figuring out what you want, I guess, because for whatever random reason, your Instagram account popped up and I saw this ad for a PLO 5-card team. And I was like, this is exactly what I want. I want to find other players and, you know, have some structure and learn how to properly study the game, I guess. Because I've been playing 5-cards for many years, but there weren't really that much study material. And yeah, I mean, you could PPT, you know, hands and do hand matchups and see how you know, you can change a card here and there and see how that changes the equities or whatever. And I did that, but that was probably more than most of my competition did because I was only playing live at the time. But I felt that it wasn't enough, and it definitely wasn't enough if I wanted to like reach the next level. So yeah, I applied for your team, and yeah, here we are.
Oscar, I can't believe you never told me this story before. All this time I thought I was no good at Facebook ads. I thought that like none of my ads ever converted. You know, but like, you know, like my whole life I thought, oh, ads is going to be easy. You make an ad for a product, you know, the product costs more than you spend on the ads, you print money, and like never happened. And now you tell me ads brought me Oscar. So apparently not all is lost. Apparently there was some big windfalls I wasn't even aware of.
Yeah,
But
that's how I ended up with you guys.
that's funny. Also, I thought it was funny you said like I wasn't really working on my mindset, but I bought like Jared's book and stuff. It reminds me of like Seinfeld, where George is like I mean, probably this is reference, I'll get it and maybe you'll get it, but maybe a lot of our listeners won't. But George in Seinfeld, like he starts getting this therapist who's supposed to help him with his anger management. And he says, like, whenever you get upset, you just like take a deep breath and say serenity now, you know?
Yeah, I
So he's
remember
like
that.
trying to work on his mindset, but he's not really about it. George is not going to yoga. George is not like waking up, getting morning sunlight. He's not doing ice baths with Huberman. George is George, you know? George is like a complainer, a neurotic, anxious, like angry guy, and he's not really into all this stuff. And he's like, things go wrong in his life, and he's like, serenity now, serenity now. And at the end of the episode, I think he has this big wallet full of stuff. And he's trying to close it in a rainstorm, and it pops, and like everything flies up in the air, and all his credit cards, all his money, everything just goes like puddles everywhere. And he just starts screaming at the sky, like, serenity now, serenity now. And that's what I pictured when you said, like, I was a mindset fish, but I had Jared's book. Like, you're like,
Yeah.
inchworm, God damn it. Like, I'm unconsciously competent.
Yeah, I mean, just reading the book is not enough. You can't just, read it from cover to cover and think that you know it, I think. But I mean, it did provoke some thought, obviously, since I did, start following some mindset accounts, I guess, on the Instagram as well, and stuff like that. And I probably looked for other ways of improving my mindset. Because I felt that that's what I needed the most. And I think both in life and in poker. And like, to be honest, after joining, I mean, my mindset has been improved like thousandfold probably, but I feel that I've noticed it more in life than in poker. Because I've improved so much my way of thinking and my way of approaching things and structure and habits and everything that has a bigger effect on my life and on people around me and my relationships and my screen time and whatever. So yeah.
I want to get into that because you basically you talked about some of the problems you were having. Career was in a bit of a plateau, lack of structure and balance, needing some help with approaching studying in an effective way, a bit of a crisis in your marriage, you said. Like, people are listening and they're like, okay, you didn't have a good mindset for poker. You had early success in your career, then you toughed it out, and then things were going up and down for a while, never really worked on mindset. And then you said, my mindset was by far my biggest leak. Like, what was wrong with your mindset? Like, so someone listening, like, what is it that you were doing wrong that wasn't serving you? That someone else might be, oh shit, I do that too. Like, what were the big problems and how were they contributing to these things you described to me that you were struggling with?
I think I probably had every mindset leak out there, to be honest. I had no structure. I had no balance. I definitely had like injustice tilt and hate losing tilt and I don't know, all of those kind of tilts. um, I also had winner's tilt for sure, because when I know when I won for whatever couple of times in a row, I thought, hey, this is the new me. I've figured everything out, and now I'm going to win this much every session.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I had all the mindset leaks, and some of them were from not understanding variance maybe, and some of them were from not understanding, I don't know, that I needed to work out to be a better poker player, or but I don't know, for whatever reason, I don't know, I probably let poker consume me a little bit too much, and I always liked playing more than studying, and I didn't really think of, somebody said the other day in a coaching call that we make money when we study and we collect money when we play. And
Oh, I
I wish
like
somebody
that.
and I wish
Yeah, I
somebody
wish
would
somebody
have
would have
said,
told me that before.
yeah, that, I mean, it's an amazing quote. I'm not sure exactly who it came from. I know he said it in the call, but um, like, I wish I would have heard that way back, because I always thought that studying was kind of like wasting time, because I just wanted to play. When I play, I make money. When I study, I don't make any money. But what I didn't realize what was that, like, there's a breaking point when everybody catches up and become better. I was better than, most players for a couple of years, and I made really good money. But then eventually everybody who were grinding the training sites caught up with me, and who were grinding the tools, who got good at Poker Tracker or Holder Manager or whatever early. They surpassed me, obviously, and then I was the one needing to catch up to everybody instead. So yeah, if somebody would have told me that earlier, I would have had an easier career for sure.
Yeah, you and me both. I think that's actually one of the things that led me toward mindset coaching was, when I got better at my mindset, I realized how important it was and how much it held me back, that I just hadn't been humble sooner. For me, was a big one. I was good, but then I thought I was great. And then I never
Yeah,
became great. And I played in lineups with other people who were actually great. And like it's like, because I took it so for granted I could beat the other people who were okay or good. And then I just
yeah,
kept smashing into my ceiling and not understanding why I didn't win, and like blaming variance. And sure, there was variance, at times, but other people stayed curious about the game. And like, okay, I learned ICM really well as a sit and go player, but then like, what about, basic post flop, range construction and knowing who hits which board better and stuff like this? Like, I just missed out on a lot because I succeeded too easily to a level that I was like very enamored with. And yeah, I mean, I wish somebody would have told me you earn while you study and you collect while you play, because that would have,
yeah,
I thought I earned and collected when I, won a rake race leaderboard. So I was just grind, 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 grind.
yeah.
But yeah, so how did joining the team, how did that help you with these mindset leaks? Like, what was that transformation like for you? Was it painful? Did it suck? Did you enjoy it? Like, was it fast? Was it slow? Is it still a work in progress? How do you feel
Um,
about it?
I know for a fact that I was resisting change in many areas. I thought that I had the answer, and I have been doing whatever I've been doing for 17 years, and I mean, for whatever it has been working in a way, because I'm still here and I'm still playing poker and I'm still making money. So uh, why should I do things your way instead, right? But you know, eventually I came around in most areas, I think. But it's not easy to let go of all your old beliefs and just jump into unknown waters. You have to. I think what happened at first was that I was pretty overwhelmed. I wanted to learn so many more new things. I wanted to study so many new things. I mean, I wanted to learn all the tools. I wanted to study mindset. I wanted to study strategy. I wanted to, meditate, do yoga, ice baths, whatever you name it. There's so many things that I want to do, and I can't start doing them all at the same time. So I had to accept that I could only add one new habit or at a time, or try one new thing at a time. And then maybe I have to spend like a week or 2 or 3 or whatever to learn this tool. And then when I'm done with that, I can, start doing something else. I can't do it all at the same time. And I mean, it was hard because I was at a point in my life where I really wanted to learn. I wanted to do all of this. I wanted to do all of it now, and to tell myself that you have to wait with this because you can't do it all now. It was hard. It was hard to accept that I couldn't do it all now. So yeah, it wasn't easy.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I mean, I still feel like I want to do everything I want to do, and I want to do it yesterday. I mean, I know I'm getting better at seeing when I'm, plotting my own future overwhelm and burnout. So I step off the gas or I make decisions. But I think a lot of players probably feel that way. Like, yeah, sure, I'd love to work on my mindset, but who has time for that? You know, I gotta grind solver, I gotta grind sims, I gotta work on this stuff that's like real, that's tangible, that like factors directly into my win rate. That's how I think a lot of people think about it. And they think like, oh sure, I'll worry about this other stuff like some future time when I'll have more time, which is anyone who's ever grown up and gotten older and eventually had a family and kids knows you don't have more time when you get older. You have more time when you're younger. So if it's not important now, it's not going to be important later. It's going to be overdue. But all that said, I mean, you came to it a little bit later in life, right? And you've gotten through a lot of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I did start with some of these things later in life than I would have wanted to, but I did start taking one-on-one mindset coaching pretty early when I joined, and that was a really good decision too, I think. And I remember Michael, he asked me at one point, so how long have you been playing poker? I was like 17 years. And when do you think you're gonna stop or retire? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm probably gonna, just always play poker. So I guess, maybe 60, 65 or whatever. Yeah. So then you're basically in the middle of your career. And that was a little bit of a wake-up call to me as well, because in a way, I kind of thought of myself being close to the end of my career. But when I really thought about it, I wasn't as close to the end as I thought.
Mhm.
So then making some of these investments, I guess, in the future made more sense because I actually had more time to collect. So yeah, and it also made it easier for me to not feel that I needed to do everything now. Because if I had 17 years more years to play and to take advantage of my new knowledge, then it wasn't as important to learn everything now. I had time, so
That's very
that was very helpful.
insightful. I
Yeah,
think a lot of people struggle to take a long-term perspective and really just understand that like any investments you make in yourself, they pay dividends over your lifetime. When you invest in your own education, you invest in your own mental well-being, your own ability to schedule your time, your habits. I mean, I love this quote: "You don't decide your life; you decide your habits, and your habits decide your life." I think there's a lot of truth in that. Like a lot of people want to do a lot of things, like as we just talked about, but if you don't have the habits to support you being like a high functioning human being, you're just not going to get to most of your list. So that's one thing I always found is when you do more, you can do more, because you get in that kind of high performance mode, you're able to get a lot more work done. Like reminds me when I was in high school and I was wrestling, I would like do my homework during lunch because I had to go to the gym after school before practice, and then I had an extra workout in the evening. It's like I somehow found time in the day to do everything I want to do because I was just in this like high performance, I want to be the best kind of mentality. And when you're in the like, you know, just the not caring about your habits, not caring about your, just like kind of, I don't know what to call it, like the Netflix marijuana poker player, you know what I mean? Like you're just not gonna get to all your goals.
yeah. You probably had two advantages there when you were in high school. I'm gonna assume like you didn't watch that much TV, I guess, and you also didn't have a smartphone, which are very time
That's
consuming.
true.
Both of those things. So it's so much easier to structure your life and find time if you make those things less, or use those things less in your life, I guess. And I watch a lot less TV now, and I try to use my phone as little as possible, at least for social media, which is not very social.
It was
But
it was super conflicting for me for a while because I my number one channel where I attracted clients was through Instagram, right? It's how I kind of
yeah,
got all the original members for our team. And when I was attracting mindset client coaching clients through Instagram, but then literally like the first thing I'm teaching is like never use Instagram. You know what I mean? I'm like, uninstall the app. Like when you wake up in the morning, don't touch your phone for 2 hours. Before you go to bed, don't touch your phone for at least 1 hour, you know? So I'm like on the tool making stories, trying to like hook people, but I'm like I try to like do all the things to grab people's attention to then like get them out of the pool, you know? And like the first thing I'm gonna help people with is like not being on Instagram and like not having segmented attention and actually having a plan, having a schedule and all this stuff. So it was quite funny for me because I felt a little bit hypocritical at times because but I also felt like all these people clearly need me because like, you know, I can see the green light, they're active, you know, they're here on Instagram, you know, with nothing better to do, which you should have something better to do than to be on Instagram.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things I'm really happy about making a podcast. To me, this doesn't feel like the same kind of thing, you know. This for me is like very much more deep and meaningful conversation, which is much more my vibe than I don't know, stories and reels. And I don't want to play the TikTok tadpole game, you know. Like I want to talk with smart people about smart things, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so you said you came to some of these mindset things in poker a little bit later in life. What do you find has been different about being on this team than you might have expected, like coming in? Because this was your first experience joining any kind of a poker team.
Yeah, I mean, I've been part of some live teams, I guess, traveling and playing some tournaments, etc. But that's really not the same thing, I guess. So when I joined, I honestly thought that I wasn't sure what it was going to give me, and I wasn't sure if I was going to stay there that long. I thought that, you know, I'll come in and see what they have to offer, maybe get a couple of coachings, and, you know, 6 months later, I'll probably be on my way, do my thing again. I think I've been with the team for more than 2 years now. So I guess that didn't end up as I thought. I, so many more benefits from this than I thought, I guess. First of all, it's not just, you know, strategical coaching, which I was looking for. It's like the whole package. It's strategical coaching, it's mindset coaching, but it's also like we discuss and attack everything in life. Like you can get help with software, you can get help with you know, choosing the best monitor for your setup, you can get help with the best fitness app or tracker or whatever, and suggestions for what to do when your shoulder is sore because you've been, you know, using the mouse too much or whatever. Like you can get help with everything. I mean, I even made a coaching video on how to make overnight oats, right? So like
Julia wants
what
to
I'm
watch this,
saying
by
is
the way.
that, say again.
Julia wants to watch that, by the way.
Oh, okay,
She's
nice,
in need of a new breakfast option.
nice. Yeah, so yeah, like basically I feels like I can turn to the team for anything. We can help each other with, you know, where to travel for poker, how to work out, what to eat, you know, relationships, whatever. Like, and since there's not that many of us, like we get to know each other, and it feels more like a family to me than a stable, really, to be honest. And yeah, since it is more like a family feeling, we do share pretty personal stuff with each other, I guess, and we kind of help each other to become better in every possible way. And I'm very sure that I wouldn't not have been the same person or poker player if I would not have joined this team. So many good things have come out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think it's like a poker community, and it's also a personal development community, and it's also like
Yeah.
just a close-knit community of like friends. And it's like I want to say it's a family, and I feel like it's a family and it's my family, but at the same time, I mean, you can't get help with this kind of thing from your family most of the time. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think if you go to your family and you're like, hey, I'm having this problem in my relationship, like, I don't know. I don't think families even, to be honest, are that often this supportive, unfortunately. I think
That's
the
true.
perfect family, is maybe, but I mean, I think families in reality often have some challenges and some dramas and things like this. And I think we steer. I mean, I guess we're like a family because we occasionally have our own stuff too. But I feel like I would rather ask our family, our poker family, for monitor advice than my own family. I don't think they would have a great opinion on the Dell 42-inch versus the Samsung Odyssey 9X or whatever, right? We've been talking
Yeah,
about
you're
that all
probably
week.
right about that.
And like, I guess I think one of the things that makes it feel so much like a family is the level of, in addition to studying together, it's like our guys, everyone keeps a blog. And when you keep a blog, you're not just sharing hands that you played, but you're sharing about your journey as a poker player. Everyone knows what stakes everyone started out at. And like everyone is happy for other people when they first break into like 1-2 and can like make rent money every month, Like we get to like
Yeah.
kind of watch those stories. And one thing that's really cool about Poker Spirit is like kind of like when you and I came up, it was a different time in poker, right? You were able to start out and like be crushing in a year. Then poker got harder. And for most people, it takes like a long time to become like competent at poker. But because we're playing a new format, because we're playing PLO 5 card, that it's not that new, but like people still aren't good at it. We have those stories. We had Thomas start out playing 4 cent, 8 cent, and in a year he was playing 25.50. I mean,
Yeah, it's
that's
pretty crazy.
that's nuts. I think that like that might be a 1 in a million story. So we've seen a lot of guys though just come in at PLO 20, playing 10 cent, 20 cent or whatever, and then they're playing 2-4 or 3-6 in a year, and that's like pretty common for us. So
Yeah.
in some ways, like getting to watch each other's journey and like be a guide, be a cheerleader, and then see the other people's success, and then see pictures of their family and the vacation they took their parents on with the money they made playing poker in our team. Like those for me are the things that make it feel like a family.
Yeah, another thing I want to add to that is, I mean, we have players from all over the world on our team. And I mean, during the last year, we've had players from Turkey experiencing an earthquake, from Iran experiencing a revolution, and from Ukraine experiencing a war and getting invaded by Russia. So to me, it made those conflicts and those things, like those events, more real, and it made like the world a little bit smaller, I guess, in a way, because just hearing about this on the news, it's so easy to distance yourself from these conflicts and think of it as that's something that's happening somewhere else and I'm not affected by it. But when your friends on the team are, really being affected by this, you are also being affected by it, and you feel you feel their pain and their suffering and their struggles. So that's been that was kind of like an unexpected knowledge or experience for me, I guess. But it's also something that I feel that I've gained from this, because I do feel that it's made my perspective and worldview a little bit better, I guess.
Yeah, I would agree with that. In a lot of ways, poker has helped my worldview. I mean, if I didn't travel for poker after Black Friday, my view of the world when I was 23 years old, grew up in America, was shit, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I just was of an opinion like, I don't know, America's the best place in the world because that's what they tell you. And then when I actually started living outside the country and seeing more of the world, living in Europe for 8 years, like living in Mexico, living in Canada, living in Australia, I've been around and I started to really learn about the world in a way I wouldn't have. But still, like, if I hadn't been to a place, maybe it's just like a biological thing in the human mind. But if I haven't been to a place, it doesn't feel real to me, you know? If a lot of people in America have never been out of the country, and like hearing stories about what's going on in Ukraine or whatever, like it just feels so far away. Like, what, I understand the perspective of people who don't want to care about it, because for them, they think it's like literally another world. But when you've been around the world and you've been to these places, I mean, it's so different, because you're like, no, this is a real place and this shit's really happening.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, I've been to Ukraine several times, and I'd even given like my biggest ever public speaking I did in Ukraine for like 500 people at a digital nomad conference. So for me, I think that one always would have hit pretty close to home, you know, because it was like, I have friends from there. But yeah, I mean, like for Iran, for example, like if we didn't have a player who experienced that conflict, like it would have just been news on a screen, like something terrible happening in a place in the world I've never been to. And yeah, you know, like just seeing, like having people in different places, and you know, going through these, like this humanitarian crisis, like with the earthquake in Turkey and this kind of thing, like it really, having a friend there, it changes everything, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
You know, all of a sudden something that you would have changed the channel on, you're reaching into your pocket, you're donating money, you're asking how you can help. Like it's just, and people will criticize you for that, like, oh, why do you, you know, you only care about the things that, I don't know, like the victims that you resonate with or whatever. But like it's just, it's human nature, you know, like it opens your compassion when you know more people. And I think
Yeah,
that's the big
of course.
advantage, is like knowing more people from around the world. I mean, I think a lot of poker communities, they're different in a lot of ways than ours, but I think one big difference is many of them are like very one national group, you know, like poker players bond together of the same country. And I understand that sometimes with language that's necessary, but I think one advantage we have is like basically anyone who speaks English can join us from any country in the world. And like we have, I think, like 37 flags or something at the moment, which is nuts,
That's
because
pretty
we don't
cool.
have, we only have like 50 people, right?
Yeah.
Or that's with staff. So yeah, it's pretty wild. And it's definitely cool to read in the blogs and see about different people's culture, and like, you know, what they do in different parts of the world, and you know, the good, the bad, all of it. It just feels like
Yeah.
a more full experience of life, you know?
I want to share a story from what you said there about gaining perspective from traveling, etc. Because I agree with that a lot. Like the more you travel, the more you see of the world, the more you understand different cultures and different people, etc. But and poker has made me travel like all over the world. That was one of the benefits, I guess, from being sponsored early. I didn't always choose like the most popular poker destinations, but I choose the most interesting ones from, and the most, yeah, the most special countries, I guess, that I wanted to go to. And I did one trip to Tanzania to play poker, which is not the first country you think about when you think poker, but they had some smaller tournament event at I think it was a hotel actually. And when we were there, mostly coming from traveling, you know, in Europe and in the States and in Australia, stuff like that before, a little bit in Asia. I had a different like perspective of traveling in the first place. So one of the first things I remember asking at the hotel was like, so what are the sites? What should we go see here in the city? And they didn't really have like any sites. It wasn't like the same, you know, when you go to Paris or whatever, you want to see the Eiffel Tower. And when you go to, I don't know, New York, you want to see the Empire State Building, but they didn't like have any of that to see really when you were in Tanzania. They didn't even have asphalt when I was in Tanzania. And I remember asking somebody where McDonald's was, and they never heard about McDonald's. They didn't know what it was. They didn't have a McDonald's. And that was also like eye-opening for me. Like they don't even know what McDonald's is. Like there's nobody from the Western world who doesn't know what McDonald's is. I mean, you can hate McDonald's, you can love McDonald's, whatever, but everybody knows what McDonald's is. So that was a little bit eye-opening for me as well, I guess. But the most funny story about that trip was one of my friends. also from Sweden. He and his girlfriend walked around the city, and they started chatting up this a local guy, and he showed them around the town. And they actually invited him back to the hotel, and it was like a pretty nice hotel, and they had like guards and stuff, and there was no way they would let any locals in there if he wasn't invited by them. But he was invited in, and he was watching us play poker and stuff like that. And I mean, he was a student, but he was poor. So he was watching us play poker for a bit and whatever, and then they put out the buffet for us to eat. And I mean, I just asked him, you wanna have dinner with us? And he was like, it was looking around like, I was like, don't, yeah, we'll pay, of course. And he was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I really want. So he ate with us. He took his like small plate, and I remember all of us Swedish guys were standing there and like, yeah, what do you think about the food, whatever? And like everybody was like, yeah, it was so, and everybody was like complaining a little bit. It wasn't that great, whatever. And then we turned to him. His name was Lucas, and we say, "So Lucas, what do you think about the food?" And he took like a pause. He was like, "It's not every day you can eat like this." And we all got so humbled, and we felt like a little bit of a bitch slap, to our face. Like, here are we standing bitching about this buffet, and it's not every day he can eat like this, right? So yeah, and I mean, he went for seconds and thirds and whatever. Like, he cleaned out the buffet, but I mean, just enjoy, man. Yeah, I'm so happy for him. And he came back the next few days as well, and had dinner with us and whatever. But yeah, it was a very humbling experience to stand there and complain about stuff that for somebody else is, maybe a once in a lifetime meal. So
Yeah, I mean, hedonistic adaptation is a bitch, right? We get used to things, and it's unfortunate because oftentimes it can just make us really unappreciative people. Like, people think
yeah,
like, gratitude practice is lame or whatever, but like, unfortunately it's necessary. Unfortunately, like, if you don't try to be grateful, unless you, I don't know, I think for a lot of us you'll end up being a bit of a prick, and it's like, we have to remind ourselves and really make an effort sometimes to be thankful for all that we have,
yeah,
because your mind is, conditioned for survival and conditioned to like always seek more. And if you don't do something to counter that default programming, you just kind of rob yourself of a greater opportunity for happiness, I think.
yeah, I agree.
If Lucas spent enough time at that buffet, eventually he'd complain about it too. And he'd be like, the other buffet has crab's legs.
Yeah, for sure.
So I thought we could end with maybe a fun story, because that was a bit of a deep and make you think one. I'll go first because I think we've both been around the block. Like, we've had pretty long careers. We've been playing poker since before 2010. And I think we've seen some shit that, like, I don't think the people, like, I have stories about people that wouldn't have survived long enough in today's games for people to like observe these stories. There was a lot of funny stuff that happened back in the day. I mean, when I lived in Vegas for the first time in like 2009, I lived in a huge house with 7 other poker players. Nobody had a job. I mean, to give you an idea, my parents wouldn't let me have a trampoline growing up because I thought it was dangerous. So when I moved to Vegas and I rented this like, ridiculous mansion, the first thing I did was buy a trampoline and put it in the center of the living room. That's the level of like maturity that we had at this
So what
time.
you're saying is that Phil Galfond was not allowed to have slides when he was a kid.
Probably not. Did you see that is like New York's most unfun man buys New York City penthouse and removes slide?
Oh, really? No,
That
I
was the
didn't see
headline,
that.
because somebody
Oh,
bought
okay.
Phil Galfond's apartment that had a slide in it and literally
Yeah,
removed the slide. It's like, of all
yeah.
the apartments you could buy, why would you buy the one with the slide? I mean, when I was a kid, I used to play this game at the arcade called Top Skater. It was like a Sega 1990 game where you stand on a skateboard and you go down like a half pipe and you like literally kick this skateboard to do the tricks. And it was like $1 to play. And my allowance when I was a kid was $5. So I could only play 5 times. And that's if I spent my entire week's allowance on this game. So, you know, more than likely I'd play like 1 or 2 games a week, and it was a highlight for me. So eventually, I think after I won an F tops for like 60K, I decided to buy this thing. So I went on eBay and I found Top Skater, and I ordered it. It was $2,000, right? Which at the time I think was probably like 2% of my bankroll, which seemed like no big deal. Which obviously, spending 2% of your bankroll in a video game is probably pretty dumb. But you know, tell that to 24-year-old or 23-year-old James. So we ordered Top Skater, and this thing arrived in a huge crate. It was 2 tons. Weight 2 tons, you know?
Wow.
And they just left it on the steps. Like we had to like drag it into the house, like over the marble, and try to get it into the room. And like, you know, it was one of those things, like it was a stupid purchase, but it was like a cool story, you know, like just we had this every day. I woke up and I saw this like huge, this thing was huge. Like you stood in it, you know? And I just, every day I sit, like when I would play it, I play like 1 game a day and just be like, this was like my MTV Cribs, you know, it was like my thing. Like as a kid, I dreamed about like, oh, I want to play this game, it's too expensive. And now I have it in my house. Like I felt like I'd made it, you know what I mean? Like forget about the game sucked. It turns out there was only 1 level. So like once you beat the level, like you could play the other one, but that was it. There was these like there was 1 other level besides the basic level, and it was soundtrack was 1 song. It was a Pennywise song that I liked, but it was literally 1 song. So every game you played had the same soundtrack. It wasn't actually that amazing a game because it was made in 1990, but I feel pretty good about it. I feel pretty good about that purchase, looking back on it. I was not able to recoup my investment after Black Friday. Like after Black Friday, when we had to leave the country, I couldn't pay someone to take it away. I just accepted not getting my deposit back and left it there. It was a tough sell.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool story though, and I think those kind of things are important, I guess, to, I mean, to splurge a little bit and to feel that you've been successful or that you accomplished something.
Yeah.
Treat
I
yourself a
was
little bit.
I was lucky though that I could be like an idiot and still be playing poker today, you know, if that makes sense. Like I had enough time and enough ability to carry me to the point where I eventually stopped being an idiot and like matured. I think some people like weren't so lucky. I mean, I had a couple of roommates when I was living in this house, and they used to gamble on everything. I mean, they were both serious degenerates. You know, they were successful like tournament players at the time or whatever, but I mean, we'd be in a car going to get sushi, and they'd be gambling on if the stoplight was going to turn red by the time we got to it. And I'm driving, and one of them's yelling at me like, slow down. The other one saying speed up, you know? I mean, we were just, I guess this was the vibe that we had at the time, you know, like everybody's young, everybody doesn't have a job, everyone's making money on the internet playing poker. And I mean, one of the guys had like sort of the quintessential story of success too early. He basically deposited $200 on Poker Stars and started playing heads up PLO with $200, you know, like just bought into 1-2 with the full amount. 3 weeks later, he had 70K.
Wow.
And then by week 4, he had 0.
Yeah, of course.
So like this just ruined him because he always thought if he can just get somebody to loan him $500, he could like run it up again and have like a 5-figure bankroll, 6-figure bankroll. So no matter what went right for him, eventually he would just decide, well, if I could do it with 200, I can do it with whatever I have now, and he would go broke. And I don't know how much money he ended up owing me. Like the last time I saw him, I haven't talked to him in 10 years. I'm pretty sure that that's no good. But I mean, you know, he owed everybody. And I'm trying to think what it was that was the funniest thing about him. Oh yeah, one of our roommates wanted to help him out, like really wanted to see him on his feet. Well, we all did, we liked him, right? But he was clearly like a serious degenerate gambler. And one of the guys agreed to stake him because he was actually a pretty good tournament player. I think he'd won the Sunday Million like twice, but he was still broke.
Oh wow.
And so a friend agrees to stake him, but like he's worried that he's not going to play the games he's staked for. He's supposed to play like the $3 rebuy MTTs or something, but you know that like as soon as the backer goes to bed, he's gonna fire up like the heads up PLO tables and dust the bankroll. So like my one roommate who's very responsible and like was trying to help him out, he's sitting there, he's a supernova elite, he's got like 18 tables up of like 3.6 to 510 on 2 Dell 30-inch monitors. On the third monitor, he's got our roommate up like just team viewing, watching his tables to make sure he's not playing any like high stakes PLO. And the other guys downstairs, you know, playing and watching NBA and betting on the sports and like going broke. So it was some degen stories, you know. It was a good time, but
Yeah, I think I mean, that story makes me think of how important it is to surround yourself with people that want to accomplish and share your goals. I want to accomplish the same thing you do and share your goals. Because I think throughout my poker career, I wouldn't say that I've been unlucky or choosing the wrong friends necessarily, but in a way I have, because none of the friends that I had took poker seriously enough, or they ended up quitting poker for whatever reason, or I was friends with some DJs as well, I guess. And like when you surround yourself with that kind of people, it's hard to accomplish anything, I guess. And that's also something that I've noticed is a huge difference now when I'm in this stable. Like you are surrounded by people that are highly motivated and share your goals, and they not only in poker but in life in general. So when everybody's working towards they have the same mission, it's so much easier to help each other benefit from the relationship. So yeah, that's what I heard in your story, I guess, or my main takeaway. Because
yeah,
I've been on many poker trips with people like that I'm friendly with, that are great people, but not necessarily the best people to bring or to travel with if you want to go on like a poker trip and take it seriously. If you want to go on a poker trip, play some poker and have a lot of fun and go party a lot, maybe it's right kind of people, but then you don't accomplish the same thing. I remember when I've been in Vegas many times now, but I think the first, I don't know, maybe 8, 9 times, I don't think I played much cash game at all. But I was a cash game player, so I'm not sure why I didn't play cash games, but it was probably because I busy like doing Vegas, hanging out at the pool, going partying. I played a tournament, like I was always playing the main event, but I was never really a tournament player, and that's also like something I could have done better. I think I could have taken that tournament more seriously and probably had better results. But yeah, surround yourself with the right people, I think, is very important in general.
yeah. I mean, I think for a lot of my career, I always kind of like saw the entertainment value and I'm empathetic toward people that didn't have their shit together. And then I had like
Yeah.
the people who I kind of respected their game more and would actually like talk more strategy and more serious topics with. But over time, I think, especially probably just as the game's getting harder, I started to shift toward like tightening my standards for my circle a lot. You know, you have a couple bad experiences too, and it makes you, you know,
Yeah.
realize like your roommate who was funny and like made you laugh a lot, when he moves out, he owes you 20K, and you're like, well, maybe I could have seen that coming, you know? And yeah, I mean, I think it's a big reason, like when I started this team, like why I chose Ryan as like the head coach, you know. I had a lot of people I could have thought about choosing, you know, but I just chose someone who I thought had a really high standard, you know, and really like hard work ethic and like just like the right vibe, you know. Like I thought with the place that I was at in life, the place that he was at in life, like, and then what we would kind of build together, it would be the right environment for other people to be highly successful. You know, he is a highly motivated, high stakes player. I was a highly motivated mindset coach. And I thought if we put our heads together, we can create an environment where people are basically just kind of, you know, destined to succeed.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people I like, that but I wouldn't necessarily want to stake them, so yeah. Should we end on that note, or do you have another story for us?
Oh, you wanted a story from me as well.
I don't know. It could be a DGen story, but it could be a feel good story. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Um, Putting me on the spot here. I mean, I've obviously had lots of different poker experiences. Yeah, I guess I can tell this story. It's kind of fun. Or maybe not fun, maybe not so fun, I'm not sure. But I was playing I was at an EPT stop, maybe 2007 or 2008 or so, or something around there. And there were 3 Swedish high stakes players that were sharing a suite. And they met some, I don't know, German businessman or whatever in some of the games in the casino, and they took the game upstairs. And he insisted that his friend should deal the game, and yeah, so they let him, and they took turns playing him at heads up. And while they're waiting for their turn to play in the game, I remember they were throwing banana peels closest to something on the floor for like 10K a throw and stuff like that. Like, I mean, they were like totally bored, and I mean, they definitely were a little bit on the degen side, I guess. And I was railing a little bit, of the game and of the of their banana peeling throwing as well. But yeah, I called it a night early, I guess, and I heard the day after that it got cleaned out by this German businessman, and I think they lost like, I don't know, 200K or something. And actually I had to like, I remember they actually had to like leave their watches or whatever to him because they didn't manage to get all their money together because they had all their money in their poker accounts like proper live game fish. But yeah, I heard, or they heard, or whatever, somebody heard at least like a few years later that he had been traveling the circuit and cheating players. So they were cheated by this guy. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, the first two things that pop into my head is like, if for sure, if he says my guy's got a deal, that guy's a mechanic, right?
yeah, for sure.
And I guess second is 200K is not that much to lose, I would think, between 3 people who would play 10K
No,
for banana weight for banana
yeah,
peel. I mean, I would imagine I've seen some heads up sit and go graphs that are pretty sick in buy-ins, and I gotta think the edge in throwing banana peels is, I mean, it could potentially be a lot bigger if you're really athletic or really good with a banana peel. You could Diddy Kong or
yeah,
Donkey Kong, but I would think that the swings in 10K banana peel throwing is yeah, it could be in the
higher.
millions. It could be like you can get down 50
Yeah,
buy-ins, right? 500K.
yeah, they didn't take it that far. I don't, I mean, there were no big money being exchanged from the banana peeling throwing, but I heard stories about them doing that kind of like the same thing in the Bahamas when they were instead throwing water bottles in trash cans and stuff like that. So it's obviously like a theme among them, I guess, to be a little bit degen. But there were a lot of more of that kind of stuff going on back in the days than there are now. Nowadays, you hardly ever hear stories like that anymore. Like the most people gamble these days, I think, is like credit card roulette at a restaurant or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's a
I
good thing, I
mean,
guess.
yeah, credit card roulette, you always win when you're on an upswing and lose when you're on a downswing. That was my experience back in the day, at least. But,
Yeah. You have to
all right.
ask my Swedish friend another day what he thinks about the credit card roulette. Or we played the donkey flip. There's a app within where you flip a coin, and there's a happy donkey and a sad donkey. You can ask him
Yeah.
what he thinks about that. He lost every flip for a week when we were in Dublin playing the Norwegian Championship.
Is that Mikkel?
No, Jim.
A
He lost
different one. Oh,
every
okay.
flip. So he paid for all dinners for a week. I actually paid for one just because I felt sorry for them after I binked the tournament or whatever there. So
We had a guy that it was always his idea to play. He was the guy who won all the money off my other Busto roommate, right? He
yeah,
was a professional golfer and he played poker, and it was always his idea to gamble on things. He was actually the compulsive gambler of the group. but he didn't understand variance, which was crazy because he was a tournament player for a really long time. But he lost, like, we would go to like all you can eat sushi, and like he would, if he lost 2 flips in a row, he'd be irate, and he lost 3 and he was like refusing to drive home. He's like, he's just child, so yeah, a lot of people who didn't understand variance who are no longer playing poker, so.
I guess I could share another little feel-good story, or at least it's a feel-good story to me.
The banana peels
that-
made me feel good. God, that made me laugh,
Yeah. No, as you know, I faced some health problems last year, and they actually found a tumor on my kidney. And I know, like a couple of years ago, I would have been completely devastated. I would have felt like my life is over. I would have had all these emotions, been super scared or whatever. But now when I got the news, I didn't feel that much. I felt like, okay, so what can I do? Like, what's the next step? And to me, that was a receipt of all the mindset training that I've done. Like, that it actually worked, that I could focus on what I could control, that I did not get carried away with emotion, that I just thought about, like, what's the next step? So what can I do? And I was actually ready for whatever outcome it would be. Like, I was basically just, thinking about like all the different outcomes and what I would do if it was, worst case scenario versus best case scenario. And I felt ready for whatever. And that was actually really nice feeling, not to be that worried and not to be that, affected by it. And I guess it's also a little bit natural when you grow a little bit older that you realize that death is a natural part of life as you get closer to it. But in no way do I want to. I'm just saying that I felt good to be able to focus on what was important and to what I could do rather than how unfair life is.
Right. I don't think there's any bigger, I mean, I take no credit, but at the same time, it's like, as a mindset coach, there's probably nothing you could be more proud of than knowing that, the work in your field has helped somebody through something like that, because when I got into it, it wasn't because I really wanted to help poker players make more money, it was because when I was successful in poker, I still wasn't very happy, and I had a lot of life leaks. And when I kind of worked through my shit, I became much happier. And then I wanted that for other people. I wanted to show people, like, hey, you're so concerned with getting to the next highest stake, you should focus on this because you'll be way happier than whether you're playing 5, 10, 10, 20, or 25, 50 if you just solve this, because trust me, So yeah, I mean, to see it tested it's like, we hope not to get tested at that level. And a few of our guys on our team have been tested at that level this year, and or similar levels. And just to see it hold up is, I don't know, all the proof you could ask for, it's means a lot.
Yeah. You should definitely take some credit. I mean, I have gone through your whole mindset course. I also worked with Michael one-on-one, obviously, and I mean, both things have been incredibly helpful to me, like I said, both as a person and to my poker career. So,
well, in that case, I trained Michael. I'll take all the credit. All right. Well, I guess that's our podcast. It was kind of a unique interspersement of like degen stories and like deep and meaningful mindset moments. So I hope that both is fun and interesting to listen to, and in some ways helpful. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Oskar, for sharing so much.
It was nice talking to you.
Thank you for sharing your story with us. All your stories. I learned a lot about you today, and that was quite fun for me. I've known you for 2.5 years, and I didn't know a lot of this stuff. So this was really fun for me. And yeah, I hope to have you back on the podcast sometime in the future to, tell more degen stories.
Sounds good.
All right. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.